Welcome to the Sherman Show, guys. I got a special guest with me, bro.
It's Tremonte from Tremonte and Friends. I'm
Oh,
so
yeah.
excited to be here, man.
Yeah, I know. We've been wanting to do this for a while, bro.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, I was on the Tremonte and Friends podcast. He had me on there, and we talked about a lot of interesting things when it comes to like my relationship. We talked about COVID, and if you haven't seen the episode yet or tuned in his podcast, definitely recommend doing it. Like you're gonna see some entertaining stuff. My episode was definitely kind of wild. So
It was wild. But it was revealing, man, and I enjoyed it, man. It's one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that.
When Paul gets famous, I had him on my podcast first. So when he gets big, like Joe Rogan big, like I had him on, man.
I mean, I appreciate that. If I become as big as Joe Rogan, like you're definitely gonna be part of my like close circle, like Rogan has. So, but how's everything been with you, man? I know we recently just talked about like your work balance and how you guys just went to permanently work at home. So how's that been?
It's been an adjustment. I prefer working from home, although I love seeing people and socializing. Just because I'm a practical person, so like the gas, you came to my house, you see how far I drive. I
Yeah.
drove from
Oh,
work.
dude, when I went to your house, I was like, this guy's driving a Capital One, bro.
Yeah. But being from the comfort of your own home and answering calls or whatever the type of work is that you do, it can be a gift and a curse. You can roll out your bed. You don't have to put on clothes. You don't have to worry about driving anywhere. You can cook breakfast in your house, do things like that. But on the flip side, you can be lazier than usual because there's no one to micromanage you. There's no one over your back telling you to be on the phone or you have to do this. You kind of have to self-manage. And if you're able to do that, it can definitely be beneficial.
Because the thing that I was like curious about whenever the whole pandemic happened, I feel like a lot of people when they were stuck in their house caused some like mental health awareness.
Right.
Like people were like, "Oh, dude, I gotta get out of these four walls." Like, and that's been what was hard on me when I did work at home for a little bit. Whenever I was sick, is when I got out of work, like that's usually when I would enjoy going home, and I'd be like, "Well, I'm already here. Like, where's the balance?" So.
Right.
But you've been able, it seems like you've got it down pat to where you've been able to see the benefits of it.
Yeah, I'm kind of an introverted person in a way. So I think that I'm kind of inclined to be a little more introspective. So I kind of enjoy being by myself a lot. I know you have a tendency to be introspective, but you're a more extroverted person. Your personality, your humor, your self-awareness when you're around other people, you're like the life of the party. So I can see, because there are some people, when they made the announcement, some people who had like a similar personality to you, I can understand why they would be upset. Because when you'll be in the office, they'd always be like, they're ready, they're happy, they're encouraging people. And then when you're kind of regulated to just being at home with your kids and your pets and you don't see people like you normally do, it can affect you adversely.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. That's why I like, it's weird because now that I've been back in the store, I realize this pandemic has brought out a lot of assholes.
Oh, definitely.
Like, and so I can imagine like how it is like for you guys because like you're dealing with banking and stuff. Like I have customers,
Oh my gosh.
bro. I had a customer come in the other day and cuss me out because they're like, I don't know my Facebook login, and I was like, well, this is it. Like I maybe I said it the wrong way. I was like, well, this is Verizon. Like this is a Facebook. I don't have that.
That's true.
And yeah, she literally told me like fuck off and that she was gonna cancel service. And I was like, bro, like when has that ever been okay to talk to people like that?
Never.
I feel like because of the pandemic, people just, it's crazy now,
That's
man.
true, because people start to take out their frustrations on people like you, people who answer phones, or people just anywhere, because if you've been cooped up in your house for the majority of the time with social distancing, you can't go anywhere. When I get out, I have to take out my anger and my frustration on somebody.
Yeah, you're like a
even if
ticking
it's the
time
wrong
bomb.
even if it's the wrong person. How often do you get cussed out at your job?
Oh man, dude. Oh, the other day, I remember there was this guy, and I'm gonna be honest, like, I'm not a fan of the whole mask thing. Like, I get it though. Like, I get
me
it.
neither.
Like,
I don't like putting on a mask.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I can't see like people's faces anymore. Like, I react off of emotion and like conversation. I'm able to figure out how a conversation's going during my transaction based off of body language. And unfortunately, like that's just something I have to enforce with my job. So there was this guy, he comes in with like this like t-shirt mask or whatever. Definitely not a mask. Definitely doesn't protect him. Whatever though. So he pulls it down and start talking on the phone. I was like, hey sir, like you need to put your mask on. And then he's like, I'm not near nobody. And I was like, oh, I understand, lad. I can see that. But I'm gonna need you to put your mask on if you're gonna be in the store. And he's like, I don't have it. And I was like, did it say you did? Like, I'm asking you is just to put your mask on. He's like, this is fucking bullshit. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
if you continue to be unprofessional, I'm going to kick you out. I was like, now you can wait. And whenever someone's available, we'll help you out. And then I wanted to be like, act like a big boy. Like, act like an adult. You know, people have to wait in line. Like, this entitlement that some customers would have, it's mind-boggling. And that's one thing I also wanted to touch base on is, like, I think when people make, like, a certain amount of money, it makes them feel like they're superior to people.
It does.
And that's like, I know, you know, you're a transpiring podcaster, like you're an entrepreneur, like you're going to school, you're leveling up in a lot of ways that people just don't have the time to put into themselves. So that's one thing I definitely want to give kudos to you on, because that's not an easy task.
Thank you.
So if you were to get famous, whenever you do get famous, I'm not going to say if, we're going to say when to manifest this. Cause if I'm going to be the next Joe Rogan, you're gonna be right there with me. Do you think money would ever change you?
That's a good question. That's a tough question. So you can, I think everybody says the same thing. Everybody says no, but obviously that's a lie. Yeah. I think money would change me. I don't want to say it would change me negatively. I'm a pretty grounded person. And you never know how much $1 million would change your life. How it would change your psyche. You just don't know. Because for working class people, most of us who make like around a certain amount of money, you can kind of dictate, like, if I made 5,000-10,000 more, I would be okay. You don't really change much. Imagine if you made like 100,000 more a year. Probably would be more or less the same, maybe. Buy stuff, you know, make sure.
Not me, bro. I'm about to be dressed up in custom fitted suits like Conor McGregor, bro. Like, I'm going to be fancy.
Conor McGregor looks fly in his suits, too.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that he got knocked out.
Yeah, that's been happening. But I think if I like gotten a massive amount of money or started making that, I probably would change. People probably wouldn't like it. I wouldn't say I would be arrogant or hubris about myself, but I'm sure I would change, and hopefully I would say I would change in a positive way. Hopefully I would give back, because I have a heart for homeless people. So hopefully I would start something, my wife and I, to give back to people, because I know what it's like to not have anything. You know, growing up, I didn't grow up with money or anything. But I'm definitely not somebody like, I like being around people like you, like people I know. I'm not afraid to meet new people, but if, like you mentioned, if somebody else has a lot of money, they normally hang in cliques of people who have money. But if you have this kind of abusive mindset, like, you know what, I'm going to treat these people lesser than because they make less than me, I could probably never hang with anybody like that. Yeah,
I'm glad that you mentioned that. I think that one way of telling that with someone is how they treat the waiter.
That's good. That's
like,
good.
I think if people talk down to waiters, I think that's disgusting.
I've
like,
seen that
they're not servants.
Right.
Like, they're just trying to do what we're trying to do. Just trying to better your life, make money. That way, you don't know what they got going on. And like, and whenever you see like someone be like talking down to them, that gets my blood boiling, bro. Because it's like, I don't care how much money you make, be a human, be a human being, bro. And that's why I wanted to ask that, because there's so many people that when they get in a certain like tax bracket, they feel like powerful. Yeah, they feel like no one could touch them, and then they kind of feel like they're above people. Yeah. And I think that's an ugly trait to have. I'm with you though. I don't think that I would ever get to a point where I would make a certain amount of money and just be like, no one's gonna, like, fuck everybody, bro. That's just not who I am, bro. That's not how I was raised, bro. I was raised to just love people.
And I to piggyback off of what you said, I think money only amplifies who you already are. So if you're already kind of treating people, if you're already someone, you make 30, 40,000, you're probably already treating people that way. And then when you make more money, it's just amplifying that to the 10th power. Now you really like, oh, F this, F these people, what's going to, and servants or waitresses, waiters, they have some of the hardest jobs, man. Because I worked in like that type of industry, it never ends until like from the moment the restaurant opens to the end. They're always busy, even
Yeah.
on a slow day. They're busy, and then they have to wake up and do it again. What they make like $3
Yeah, they make like $4 an hour.
off tips.
Yeah.
And you have to think during the pandemic, a lot of restaurants weren't operating at 100% capacity,
And then we're
So
getting
a lot of
paid.
people, right? And some people were fired; they were laid off.
Yeah.
So imagine somebody. You're right. How you treat someone when you're going to get your food, they're bringing you your food that you paid for.
Yeah.
If you treat them horribly, you'll treat anybody bad.
Yeah, and it's crazy that so many people have that mindset. You know, like that's why I'm very skeptical about who I have in my close circle. You know, like not many people have been to my house, and you're one of the people that have been to my house. You know, like because I like to have positive people, and this is my sanctuary.
Yeah.
Like I always want positive vibes, and I always want to be around my friends that are always going to bring out the best and try to better each other. You know, I used to hang out with friends that if you'd start winning, like belittling would happen and hate and like all this other stuff. And, I used to hang out with a lot of friends where I didn't know what that was at the time. I didn't know how to pick up on those toxic traits until I got older. And then, and like you've said, I matured at a very fast rate to where like I'm only 28, but a lot of people think I'm way older. And one thing that you mentioned is, that you would want to give back to the community, and you mentioned your wife.
Yeah.
How long have you been married for?
I've been married as of last September. Been married 5 years. So
Okay.
We got married 2015. Yeah, this year will be 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Congrats, man. So I think, and I always tell this to all my friends who have been in long-term relationships, I give so much props and respect to people that are able to have those type of relationships, be married, because in the relationship dating type of genre that's going on in everyday like life, it's very hard to find that. People don't want to commit. You're able to get everything out of a relationship without a title. And then you got people that have like rosters. They're like, oh, I could have multiple people. Like, why would I need to settle down with one when I could settle down with 5 and get everything I want Monday through Friday?
Yeah.
Like, so what made you, how did you know that this was your person? Like, this was the one. How did you know?
There were a few things that happened leading up to first. True story. My wife, when we were dating, she got with me when I had nothing. I was still living with my mom. I was catching the bus to work. I'm not ashamed. I was catching the bus. I didn't have a job at the time. I wasn't going to school. So all the stuff that you see now, I didn't have anything. And she took a chance to be with me because we had always been friends. We've been friends since 2006, so we kept in contact. But she took a chance on me. And she said she took a chance on me because she just believed in me. And I believed in myself. I was just in a really bad spot, in my life. So I always take that into consideration. When I look at it every day, like she took a chance on me when nobody else really would. And then she wouldn't give up when we would argue. So a lot of times, you get in arguments and disagreements in relationships. She's not a quitter. She's just not like, F it, go do what you're going to do, or you.
I hate that.
She's not like that. She's going to fight with you. She'll get upset, as you should.
Yeah, it's emotions.
Yeah, and it's really out of love. Like you just love the person. You don't really know how to convey what you want to say without hurting their feelings. Sometimes you do. You don't always say the right thing. But I noticed like she's not going to give up, and she's going to keep fighting, and she's going to want to try to find a solution. So those are like two of the main things. And then as we got closer to getting married. I will say this, and she'll probably laugh if she sees this. We had something happen, and I said, "Hey, we're not going to get married if you don't straighten up." I was like, "Hey, you tripping, man? You're not going to get." Because I was doing like literally, kind of how you were. I want to bring this up, like in your last relationship. I was doing everything I could to make her happy, like everything, exhausted, like 100%, doing everything. And she wasn't putting in the same effort. Yeah, I'm not saying you have to be 100%, but you have to give the most that you can.
Yeah, you got to try.
Yeah, and she wasn't trying. So I was like, hey, I'm doing everything I can. This is a two-way street. Yeah. And sure enough, as I mentioned, she's not a quitter. She said, you know what, you're right. You're right. Because there are times when she's pointed at me, she was like, hey, you got to do this. And no man wants to hear that. But I'm like, you know what? I got to man up. So that led to us getting married. And marriage, it's been rocky.
Yeah.
It hasn't been like just smooth. I know with social media sometimes with people you see the pictures and you see the stuff, but you know what's really going on with some people. You know what's really going on, man. I
Yeah.
can tell you, man. Be honest, it's not been smooth, but it's been worthwhile.
Yeah, and there's been conversations that I've had with many friends is you choose your hard. Being single can be hard. Being
Yes.
married can be hard. Like nothing in life that's worth having is easy. I don't, and that's whether it's career, whether it's hobbies. You know, when like this podcast, for example, like setting all this up and learning all this was not easy.
Difficult task.
Yeah, it took a lot of time, you know. But I think I respect that though. Like, and especially whenever you said that, you know, she wasn't a quitter, and you guys held each other accountable,
Yes.
and you were able to communicate that, which I think has died. I think communication has died because we're in a society where social media has made it easy to ghost people.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of people my age personally, like between the 21 to 30, they've lost value for people's time to where they're
That's
like,
deep.
"Oh, I don't gotta have this conversation that's a hard conversation when I can just block this person and move to the next one."
That's deep.
So, no, I think that that's awesome, man. Like that's a hard thing to do. Communication is extremely hard.
Yeah.
And you know, I respect that. That's not an easy thing, and, you know, and just the fact that you're very open to saying it's not butterflies and rainbows.
No. It's not. and when we get with someone, you have to learn their communication style, and you don't know up front. You just think you're someone that I know personally. You're open, like you'll say, "Hey, we need to talk about this." You know, you train me, and you'll be honest. I'm the same way. I'm confrontational, like in a healthy way. Like, hey, we need to talk about this. Manager, spouse, whoever, let's just talk about it. If we don't talk about it, we're gonna sweep it under the rug, and we're gonna explode on one another somewhere down the line. You don't want that. My wife is not like that. She's like complete opposite. When I would bring up stuff, I realized she would shut down. And some people sometimes the man is like that, or whomever. If it's two women dating,
Yeah.
you just have to find out how does this person operate best. And I had to learn that I had to sacrifice sometimes when I brought up stuff. She doesn't want to talk about it right now.
She has to process it and digest it.
That's correct, exactly. She has to process and digest it. But I still have to hold, like, we're going to talk about it this week. We're not going to wait 2-3 months. We have to talk about it soon enough. Because I've just in life, man, I'm pretty sure it's the same for you. Whenever I've gotten into anything, when I used to get into stuff when I was younger, relationship issues, friendships, 9 times out of 10, it's a communication thing, and we didn't address it, or we waited too long to address it. And you don't want to do that as you get older, because you have less time as you get older. So I've learned her communication style. She's learned mine. Whenever there's any issue, she's always he wants to talk right now about it. Yes, I do. If you don't want to talk about it, I have to respect that, you know. And we just have to come to like a healthy compromise.
I think that's awesome though. Like and that's part of marriage is, you know, you're learning that person. That's the point, is like, it's not to be perfect immediately to where you get married. It's like you guys work with each other, you build something together, and then like you experience life together.
Yeah.
Man, marriage is beautiful. Listen,
is.
ladies, if you're trying to get a husband, holla at me.
Holla at
bro.
my boy Paul, man. He's ready.
But
He's ready.
nah, man. There's just so much like with that it's awesome to me. I think that to be able to have friends that are in like healthy relationships in today's day and age is such a badge of honor.
Yeah.
I think it's an extreme badge of honor because our generation wants to be cold. They want to be heartless. Like, I don't need no person. Like, I'm dolo. That's cool. Like, but are you happy dolo? You're saying you don't need nobody, but are you happy alone? Or like, have you just been hurt to where you don't want to face that pain yet? Yeah, I peep it all, guys. You guys aren't good at hiding this on social media.
Do you think your generation shuns getting married? Not your generation, your age group. Do you think they shun getting married?
I don't think they shun it, but I think that a lot of them don't see a point in it. They don't see the value behind it. Like for example, and I've told this to many of my friends that are women. Whenever the guy gets the cookie without being in a relationship, they're like, "Oh, why hasn't he asked me out?" And I was like, Well, he hit on the first time chilling. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm able to get all this free milk without buying the cow, why would I buy the cow?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's a weird mentality to have, but that's how a lot of guys think.
A lot of guys do think like that.
And granted, like, I'm different when it comes to that whole sex thing. I told you I don't do hookups.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, ladies. Like, I'm not into the one night stand thing.
Unless she look really, really good.
Oh yeah, I mean, but
she
if
pressing you?
if you bad, if you bad, you know what I'm saying.
Paul got a nice crib, man. He got a nice crib, man. Yeah, man. Yeah. He got a balcony too.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
balcony.
man. Yeah.
Screen patio. Ain't no mosquitoes on the balcony. But no, I think it's just it's not that they shun it. It's just a lot of them don't see the value behind it because they're not willing to put in that hard work with someone. I think that a lot of, everybody that's in my age group, when things get hard, the first reaction is to give up.
Yeah.
Because we have so many options. And I've never been like that. I'm the type that's like, I don't want to throw it away. Like, if it's broke and I could try to fix it, like, I'm going to break my back trying to fix this. Because I put in time and I care about whatever I'm, like, investing in.
Right.
And, we just have that type of, like, generation where they got that mentality like, there's a crack in this plate, let me go buy a whole new china set, and then it is what it is.
That is how it is.
But I think that there are other people out there that are like me, that think like me. It's just they might not be as open about it. Like they probably don't have a podcast, or they maybe are hanging out with people on the other side of the world or something. Maybe they're not here, but I think that there are still people that see the value of it. I just think that, with Tinder and Bumble and all this other stuff, that everything's at easy access. Everything's at our fingertips.
Yeah, the influence is catered more to being single. It is. Like you mentioned, all the apps, social media, DMs. It does push that type of mindset to be single, even for married people. It's like, man, they have all these apps. I might as well just be single. It's just so easy, But to your point, are you happy being single?
Yeah.
Because you can be miserable being married as well. There are a lot of people I know, they're married 10, 12, 15 years, but long don't mean strong. You just married for a number of years, but are you really happy? There's nothing wrong with being single, nothing wrong, but are you, as you mentioned, that's the ultimate question. Are you happy doing that? Because you can be single for 5, 10 years. And if you're really genuinely happy being single, there's nothing wrong with that. I would gather say most people aren't really happy being single. Most people I know that are single, they want to be in a relationship. They yearn to be with somebody and to build with somebody. But I also think a lot of people have this misconception that you touched on, like it's just going to be easy. You don't know how bad it can get.
Oh no,
it can get dark.
Listen, man. I was engaged, and I told you, bro. Like, when I say I mentally had my back broken, there were so many days where Mom, if you're watching this, what I'm about to say.
Hey, Mom.
I literally had days where there was we'd be arguing and she'd just be like hammering me with just belittling things. And granted, that's not a healthy relationship, but there would be things where she would say things in a certain way and I would just literally think to myself, do I really want to marry this bitch? Like, I'd be like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this is not what I imagined. And then I would just I thought that was healthy. And then that's when I started losing my self-worth because I settled for that. And one thing I'm about to say, I thought about this and I wanted to get your opinion on it.
Okay.
I think that a lot of women in our day and age settle for toxic men because they're harder to upset.
Settle for toxic men because they're harder.
So hear me out. So if a woman was to date a guy like me, I have my apartment, I have a job, I have a pretty positive mentality, I'm in pretty decent shape, and all around, I would say I'm a pretty balanced guy. Yeah. I would say I'm a pretty good catch.
I would say so.
If a average woman was to date someone like me, she would have to be on her A game because I've already established myself
correct
to where I know who I am as a person and I'm willing to invest and build with someone. It's easy to possibly upset me if she's playing mind games or doing something like that because I'll call it out. But if she's dating a toxic man that's unhealthy with communication styles and stuff, if she messes up, he's going to be okay with it and he won't really hold her accountable because he messes up too.
I never thought about it that way. That's actually a pretty good perspective to have. I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen in real time though. Now that you mention it, I do see that. I talked to my wife about that. Interestingly enough, man, because I agree with you. I think a lot of women today they date down because when you date someone who is kind of at your level,
It's more intimidating.
it's more intimidating, and you're kind of on equal footing. So you can't like. He knows he can call you out, and you call him out, and it's fair. The dude who's down here, if you're up here, you have leverage and you have the advantage. So he's not gonna say much to you because he's in a good position.
Yeah.
She's taking care of me. I get to drive her car around.
Bro, can we talk? Why is that such a common thing? Like, there's been times where, I haven't had a car, but I would never be okay with borrowing my girl's car and like bragging about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how I was raised, like, I always saw it's kind of gender role, but like, as a man, like I want to be able to provide for my woman.
Yeah.
And, that's just, I see all that stuff and I like thought about that. I was like, man, like maybe they're dating toxic men because like like you said, like when they're lower, they could do they have all the power.
Yes, sir.
So then it could be like, oh, you messed up or I messed up, but hey, you drive my car.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, all right, baby, you're right. I'm sorry. Like I do drive your car, but like you left my gas tank on E. That's why I was out at the club with those men. Like what? But it's definitely a different perspective, and that's why, like you said, I've been single now for a few months since like September, and I've got to a place where I thought about it, and I was like, man, I really like being single, like to the point where I'm like, how long am I going to be single for? Like, not like it's a bad thing, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, like I'm canceling on hanging out with people just because I want to be by myself. Like, it's weird, but at the same time, it's groundbreaking because I was like, what you said, I was waiting for that next relationship.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like, why don't I have any females in my DMs right now? Like, I will literally hit on anybody at this point, like to entertain anybody. But, now I'm at it's a groundbreaking experience, and it's a beautiful breakthrough. I think that people need to spend more time alone and get to know themselves.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be miserable, like you said. Long doesn't mean strong.
Yeah, the divorce rate spiked during the pandemic.
Stop lying. For real?
No, yes. But a lot of people got divorced because you're forced to be in the house with this person that you claim to love, but you don't really know them. Now you have to get to know them, and you have to be around them a lot.
Ooh.
So see, marriages, sometimes there are really no loopholes. You do have to walk the long road. But people get away with having a good marriage, perception-wise, by if we work two different schedules. Let's say you work the morning schedule, I work the night schedule. You take care of the kids, and then when I get home in the morning, let's say I work overnight, you go to work, like we switch together. We don't really have to see each other and talk about things. You mentioned the communication.
Yeah.
We never have to. But if both of our jobs are like, now you're going to work remotely for 6-7 months, we're forced to talk about the things that we never talked about. And sometimes apparently to the pandemic, now stats don't tell the whole story, but they do kind of give you
an idea
of what's going on. That's not happening for no reason. It didn't happen the year before.
Yeah.
So it just went through the roof, and I think that's because people were forced to. Okay, who are you now?
Yeah.
I didn't know you like this type of stuff. I didn't know this.
And that's just, it's crazy because I think that, and that's why when we kind of talked about everything on the podcast, why I don't do hookups is kind of for that reason. I want to know who I'm sleeping with. Like if sex gets involved before we really talk, that's all we're going to really do most of the time, to where we don't really got to know each other. And then all of a sudden, like there could be a whole confrontation, like, we're having sex, and then all of a sudden, like, I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to church. And be like, oh, I'm atheist. And be like, whoa, like, what?
That can happen, though.
That's the thing. Real. Like, that's why it's good to talk before you kind of do those things. And I get it, though. You have physical desires. Thank you guys for tuning in to The Sherman Show. The full episode is now out on Spotify. Again, go on Spotify and search up @The Sherman Show for the full episode.